PowerPoint. What is this? So I hope it's going to be coming up now. You should just hang on a little bit. Okay, you should be able to see this presentation right now. Can everybody see it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so my name is Piere, and what we're going to be looking at is the body language, and it's called a mediator superpower. At the end of, towards the end of this presentation, we will actually see what the superpower really is. But there's a couple of things that we're going to look at, and most of them are comfort and discomfort. And as Joe said, it's not just about body language, about us or our clients, but also the body language that we display. We've got to be very aware of it. So if we go, as we're going to go forward, the next two slides, Joe and Shetty are not allowed to answer. But the next slide, I'm going to ask a question, and if anybody wants to give me an answer, then I would appreciate that. So when we are looking at body language, it's basically non-verbal communication. It's everything we do. It's the clothes we wear, the jewelry we wear, everything that we do tells other people something about us. So my question to everybody is, why do men wear ties? And I would like somebody to hazard an answer at that. Anybody, please. And it's not a trick question, I can promise you that. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to answer it.
To tell us that they're a man?
Sorry, Janine?
To tell us that they're a man?
Yes.
Professional?
Professional, yes.
So
Anybody else?
I think it's status. So what Shanae was saying, like the professional status, and I think that it also has something to do with the formality and recognition of potentially the formality of an occasion.
Okay, thank you to the two ladies, and I'm very happy that it's two ladies that answered. What I'm going to mention next, everybody, when I put this picture up, everybody on this webinar did what I'm going to mention in the next 2 or 3 minutes. Can everybody see this red dot, this laser pointer? Have a look at this, and I need to just ask another question. Does the way this person is wearing their tie, do most men wear their ties like that? Okay, so Janine has given me a thumbs up. I'm quite sure everybody else is. But have a look at this. You see this tie's got a point at the bottom here. Tell me, and I'm going to leave this now to your imagination. Where is it pointing at? And I can already see Janine is having a nice little chuckle there. So
At his shoes.
At his shoes, okay. So, but I can't see his shoes at the moment. So that's, I'm just saying, it's just one of those things that it's non-verbal communication. This person is standing with their hands on their hips. That's a very defensive body posture. And if we, as mediators, we must be aware that if we stand with our hands on our hips, other people are going to be very cautious of talking to us and approaching us. So I just want to bring in a little bit of a lighter side with the issue about the tie, but that's the truth of the matter. Everybody must have looked down somewhere. And I know Janine was smiling. So yeah. The next one is also a question, something that we've all done, is we all shake hands with other people when we meet them. And I'll talk a little bit more about the shaking of the hands a bit later. But if we have a look at this picture on the left-hand side, when we meet people for the first time and we shake hands with them, our arms are virtually straight. And what we are telling each other, that from this point up to here, that is this person's space. And from here to here is this person's space. These two people, when they release the grip of shaking hands and they put their hands down, not one of them will move closer to the other. Subconsciously, they know that that is the space that they are not allowed to close. If one person should take a step forward, the other person will automatically, subconsciously, take a step back. When we know people a little better, our arms are bent when we greet them, and the space has been closed, but we still tell people that from here to there is the lady's space, and from here to here is the man's space. And when they drop their hands and they are talking to each other, not one of them will move closer. They will stand at that, they will maintain that distance between them. When we know the other person fairly well, that's when we can touch them, as you can see here with the guy's left hand on the elbow of the other person. When we know people quite well, we tend to hug them, we tend to pat them on the back as an indication that we are very, very close to them and friendly. So just one thing is, when we are, as mediators, we must be very careful when we're just shaking hands with somebody that we don't invade their space. And there's many ways of invading other people's space, which we can talk about at length in another webinar, but that's not for today's discussion. So what we're going to be looking at today is comfort and discomfort. And as a mediator, it's important that we know what body language displays comfort and what body language shows discomfort. For today, most of the stuff we're going to look at is discomfort. And we just need to be a little bit aware of some of these things. And there's only 5 points that we're going to be looking at. And I hope that by the end of this webinar, some of us will have some very interesting things to ask. If you have a look at this gentleman, his arms are folded. This lady here, her arms are also folded. When we fold our arms, what we are basically doing is we are giving ourselves a self-hug. We are hugging ourselves. And we do this more in public than what we do it in private. But if we have a look at the arms of the man, they very, very tightly closed. His hands have disappeared under his arms, whereas the lady, her hands are visible and her fingers are open, slightly open, they're slightly splayed. Have a look at the way this person is standing. One foot is pointing forward, the other one is pointing to their right. This foot is telling me if there's a door anywhere nearby. This foot is telling me I want to get out. When people want to get out of a room or they feel pressured and they want to, and there's a door, either both their feet or at least one foot will be twisted or will be turned towards the door. So if I have a look at the complete body language of this person, the arms tightly folded, the one foot pointing to the side, that is telling me that this person is not very comfortable. Whereas if you look at the woman, she's smiling, her arms are open, the hands are visible. And if you just look at her, the way she's standing, it's telling me that she's very, very comfortable. So as mediators, our body language should basically tell the parties that we are comfortable in the mediation session. But sometimes we do weird things that we're going to look at right now. So we're looking, this is called the body language tree, and it's courtesy of a lady called Janine Driver. Janine Driver is an agent for the ATF, which is the Alcohol, Liquor and Firearms and Explosives Department of the United States government. At the moment, she's one of the foremost speakers on body language. And there's another gentleman, his name is Joe Navarro. If you go onto YouTube, you'll find these two people very, very interesting. But Janine Driver mentions that everything that we do in our lives, in our body language, is based on our roots, which are our beliefs and our cultural upbringing. At the end of the presentation, I'll be talking a little bit more about this. The trunk, that's our body language. And if we have a look at the trunk is between the roots, our upbringing and our beliefs and our thoughts. So it tells me that our body language very often is displayed before we think of something. And if you have a look at now the tree, the leaves come in after our thoughts. So before we even think of or something or say something, our bodies has done something has given a message to our to the person that we're talking to, or the people that we are talking to. So I just want you to bear in mind that this is the part that we're going to talk about. And the trunk, our body language or people's body language must agree to the words that they speak and the things that they say. And very often the two do not gel, or they do not actually agree. We'll have a look at some of them now. So what I'm going to be talking about, or what we're going to be looking at, is self-and. The shoulders, which is shrugging, the eyes, which is blocking and touching, the lips, which are pressed or disappearing, the fingers interlaced, or a pyramid, or a steeple, and then the nose, pulling up the nose, which most of us have done somewhere when somebody has, or we walk past a place that doesn't smell right, we all pull up our noses. The most interesting thing is that most of these things that I'm going to be talking about, we've been doing them from a very young age. Some of these things are even little children, babies, do them. And as adults, we've just carried on them. Maybe we've just, they've become a little bit more sophisticated. So as we go through, I want us just to remember that some of these things are done from a very, very young age. So if we have a look at the next slide, it's called the shoulder shrug. And the moment I do the shoulder shrug, it tells me that there is some uncertainty. If we have a look at the girl on the left-hand side, her shoulders are very deeply shrugged. Her head is tilted to one side, the palms are up and pointing outwards. She's telling you, I have got absolutely no idea what you are asking or what you're talking about. Whereas the gentleman on the right, he's also got his hands up and pointing out. His head is twisted to turn to the side, which most people do. And if you look at his shoulders, they're just slightly raised. So, and that is one of the things that we as mediators must be very aware of, is the shoulder shrug. When it's only, if you can see me, if it's only a little bit while I'm talking, yes, I agree with what you're saying, and I do that, and I drop them again. It's a very slight movement, but it tells me that there is something that I am not certain about. There's something that I am not clear about. And this phrase that is at the bottom, that I tend to use it a lot. I say, and I'll use it, I use it on every aspect that I'm going to be talking about today. I will normally say, I'll ask a closed question. I will say, I might be wrong, but is there something that I'm clear about? And then if the person says yes, then I'll use an open question, and I'll get more information. If they say no, I will leave it at that, but I'll keep it in the back of my mind that this did happen. So if we have a look at the next slide, which is the eye blocking. Children do this from a very young age. One of my favorite things is I look at children, and the little girl that's on the left-hand side, when I like, Rosa gets really angry with me, but I like talking to children, and I go, hello, hello, hello. And the first thing, if they don't like me, they do that. Then I also do that. And I go, so I can't see you, can't see? I can see you now. And then they will smile. Next time they will laugh, and it becomes a game. But children from a very, very young age, if they don't like something, they close their eyes. As they grow a little bit older, like in the middle here, they might cover just one eye and use the hand, that stopping sign, saying, hey, I'm not happy. Then we've got the lady on the other side. So she's looking at her phone and she's touching her glasses. We'll talk about the touching of the glasses in the eye, Nana. But that is another way of what we call eye blocking. When people don't want us to see or actually hear what they are used to see in inverted commas, it's actually hear. They don't want to say something. That's when they do this eye blocking. Most people, what they do is while they're talking, and if you watch politicians, when they are saying something that they don't actually believe in themselves, they close their eyes like this lady here where the pointer is. They will look up, they will look away, they will look down. So as people, this eye blocking tells us that the other person doesn't want, there's something that they don't want us to see. They don't want us to know. And then once again, I'll use this phrase of I might be wrong, but is there something that you don't want to talk about? Is there something that you feel that shouldn't be discussed right now? And once again, if they say yes, I will use an open question and inquire what it is. If they say no, then I will leave that, but once again, it's in the back of my mind. The thing of eye blocking, and particularly where people look away, we must, and I'm going to mention it a little bit earlier, there are certain cultures where eye contact is seen as being disrespectful, and we must just put that in the open there as well. Sometimes people will be talking to us and they'll actually look away. It's not because they are eye blocking, it's because of their culture. I'll talk a little bit later on. So now we're looking at the eye rubbing and touching. This is from Google, you can go look. But when we rub our eyes and we touch it, what it does is it helps us to very often, if our eyes are dry, it helps us to stimulate tears, and it helps us to remove irritants and other dust and irritants from our eyes. But more important than that, when we rub our eyes, it's very therapeutic. By pressing down on the eyeball, we actually stimulate the vagus nerve, which decreases our heart rate and thus relieves stress. So have a look at this baby down here. Do you think, and I think all mothers and fathers who have had children have seen that from a very, very small, tiny tot, babies rub their eyes. And I remember children, they would rub their eyes and then they would open them up and look at you. And I always used to say, yeah, rub their eyes. They're so tired. They want to go to sleep, but they can't go to sleep because they're inquisitive. They open their eyes, they might miss something. But they're rubbing their eyes because they are tired. And the more they rub their eyes, the more tired they become, the more. And if you look at it, any child, after the fourth or the fifth time they rub their eyes, they fall asleep, particularly babies. As we grow up, even older children rub their eyes when they feel tired. Sometimes we as adults also do it. But when we touch and rub our eyes, there is something else that happens, and it's on the next slide. Rubbing and touching our eyes demonstrates that there is something that is stressful. So from the previous slide, we know that we actually activate the vagus nerve, and it releases endorphins and dopamine, which are both stress-relieving hormones. But as we as human beings have evolved, we don't actually have to really rub our eyes. If we just take our eyes and we touch our eyes anywhere, if you did that right now, you will feel once you remove your hand, there's a difference in the way you feel. And when we are under stress, we tend to do that. We touch our eyes, we will rub our eyes, we rub our forehead. Any way that somebody is touching our eyes, ladies or people who wear glasses like my sister Janine, so they will lift their glasses and touch the eye or touch the edge of the glass, and it just tells us stress. And then once again, that funny question, I might be wrong, but is there something that you feel uncomfortable about? Is there something that you're feeling stressful about? And once again, if the answer is no, I'll leave it. If the answer is yes, I'll inquire. The lips pressed or dearly, that tells us that there is disapproval or dislike. Have a look at this little baby. Look how that child has pressed its lips together. You want to tell me that baby that's been taught to it? Or is it just something that happens naturally? And whenever we see or hear something we as human beings don't like, Janine Driver turns around, she says, when we don't like what we see or hear, our lips disappear. The next time you watch TV and somebody asks them a very strange question, you will see they do this. If you watch these funny court cases that we have on SABC 2 or 3 or reality or wherever they are, the moment somebody gets asked by a judge a weird question, or the defendant or the plaintiff says something that the other party don't like, they do this. And it's a very common thing. And once again, if I see that behavior, I'll say, is there something, I might be wrong, but is there something that you dislike or that you disagree with that was said? And once again, if the answer is yes, I will inquire. If not, I will leave it and we will continue. But it will be in the back of my mind. The next one. So here's my question. Yesterday, last night, when we did the reflective practice, there was a gentleman that was on there called Chandra. Did anybody notice what he was doing while the session was on? Yes. Well done, Janine. Sat and he did this with his hands. That's called a politician's stipple, and it's a sign of extreme confidence. When we lace our fingers, either like this, which is the pyramid, or we close them and they are tightly laced, it's a definite indication of anxiety. And the tighter the fingers are clenched, the higher the anxiety. One of the things that a lot of politicians do, and anybody who is a good speaker and is confident of what they are talking about, and it may be a good thing that we as mediators do, is do this politician stipple, where the fingers are up, out. You can also do it pointing forward, but the fingers are slightly splayed. Angela Merkel uses it quite a lot. Donald Trump loves it, if you're watching him. Most of the European politicians use what is called the steeple, and it's just saying, hey, I'm confident, I know what I'm on about. If I do see any of the two signs on the left here, I will then also say, I might be wrong, but is there something that you are anxious about? Is there something that's making you feel uncomfortable? And I will wait for an answer, depending on what it is. So the next one is when we are pointing, as people, we love this one on the left with the pointing of the finger. The moment we do that, we are threatening somebody. On numerous occasions as a young man, people will use that thing, and I'm asking them, my very first question is, are you threatening me? Because if you are, I'm going to break your finger. I'm just going to go kang like that, and I'm going to break your finger. But the better way as mediators is to take our palm in this manner, turn it slightly up, and point with all our fingers. And it's just a more comfortable way for people and a more acceptable gesture. But one of the things that we as mediators must be very careful of is if we are writing and we've got a pen in our hand, that we don't use it to point. Even when people do presentations and they've got a marker or something in their hand, it becomes a serious pointing tool. So one of the things that I'm very conscious about is if I'm doing a mediation and I've got a pen in my hand and I'm taking notes, the moment before I speak, I put the pen down so that I don't do this. If you have a look at Mr. Putin, the way he's pointing is very threatening. The lady in the middle, the pen is also used as a pointer. She's holding it very open, very comfortably, and she's smiling, and a lot of people do that with pens. The one on the right here, somewhere along the line, that pen's going to come down and it's going to go like this, and we're going to be pointing it at somebody. And we use pens subconsciously to point, and we must, as mediators, must just be aware of that it's a big no-no. Even when we're doing presentations. Oops, sorry. Let me just go back. I apologize for that. The bunny nose, when we don't like something, we pull up our nose. We've all done this somewhere along the line. The challenge with us as mediators is that that bunny nose is sometimes very, very slight. People will say something, and then just like the lady on the left, it's a very slight movement. It's not as pronounced as the lady in the middle. She really doesn't like what she's experiencing, and the other two as well. So if I notice somebody while they're talking, they do this little bunny nose, I'll also use that lovely question, is I might be wrong, but is there something that you dislike, or something that was said that you disagree with? And 9 out of 10 times, if the answer is yes, I will then explore further. If it's no, then I will just leave it and I will continue thinking about what it is. So here we are back at the mediators, the tree, the body language tree. And this is where the mediator superpower comes in. Our beliefs and our cultural upbringing, that is what causes our body, or determines our body language. The trunk. So between the roots and the trunk, which is our thoughts, when people are talking to us, they display a certain body language. And there is approximately plus minus 5 seconds, and this has been tested and by Joe Navarro. He's the guy who actually talks about this 5 seconds as your superpower. Between our body language and between the time that somebody thinks about what they're going to say and they say it, is approximately 5 seconds that you as a mediator have to actually ask a question before they've actually had an opportunity to think about it. So if somebody is talking to you and they say, yes, I agree, and they lift their shoulders, my next question is, okay, I do understand, I hear that you do agree, but is there something that you are uncertain about? Is there something that you are unclear about? So I do that immediately I see the body language and the somebody has, if they say something at the same time, or if while I'm talking or the other person is talking, and I see some of this body language, I will immediately ask a question. And that 5 seconds is a long time. It gives you as a mediator, a very good opportunity to intervene and ask a question. So that's where the superpower comes from, is that 5 seconds that we have between what people do with their bodies and by the time they think and say something. So the body language, it's not a singular indicator. We must remember the body language tree, that we are made up of our roots, our body language, our thoughts, and the words we speak. So in body language, there are certain things that we do. We shake hands. There are certain cultures where they don't shake hands, they bow. And the higher the person that you are dealing with, the lower you bow. There are other cultures when we are speaking, we nod our head when we're agreeing with somebody. There are other cultures when they agree and they wobble their head from side to side. There are cultures, like I said earlier, that eye contact is a definite sign of disrespect. So they will not actually be or use that eye contact as much as what we as in our culture would do that. And we must also be very aware that the words and the body language, that they agree with each other. The moment they don't agree, we must actually ask a question and have a look at it. So, as mediators, we've got two types of body language. We've got open body language and closed body language. So you have a look at the gentleman on the right. I don't say mediators must be that open in their body language, but we can see he's chilled. He's open, he's comfortable. Whereas if we have a look at the lady, her arms are folded, her legs are folded. She's telling me, don't even ask me a question, don't talk to me, and I'm not here for a conversation. As mediators, our body language must be inviting from there to here. When we're talking to people, even when we're doing presentations, must be, talk to me. We must be careful of this lovely one that we say, you can ask me anything. When I hold up my hands like this, I'm actually telling, that's called the stop sign. And I can tell you, if I say to if I'm in a discussion with somebody, I say, anything you can ask me, I'll answer. I can guarantee you, as sure as what my name is Piere, they're not going to ask me one question. They're not even going to say anything. Because I've told them, stop, I'm not here to discuss anything. And these are subtle little things that we must be very aware of as our body language. So as mediators, when we are talking, we should have an open body language. Even when we put our hands on the table, our fingers should be open. Our hands should be, we shouldn't clench our fists, because that tells you me I'm ready for a big serious discussion right now. We must be aware of what we are doing with our bodies when we are talking to somebody. There's a whole lot of things that we do when we are listening to somebody, like we lean over the table, we lean towards them, we cock our head to one side. That's all open body language. So when we turn the ear to somebody, it tells them that I'm listening. We make what we call agreeable noises. We say yes, yeah, okay, you know, all of those nice things that we do, those are called agreeable noises. So that all indicates to somebody that as a mediator, my body language is open. I'm open to a discussion with you. I'm open to listening or to hearing what you've got to say. And all I wanted to say at this point is just be careful that we don't do anything that's going to display body language that is closed or is going to prevent people from talking to us. The next one. this is the end of me. And I want to thank the society and I thank Joe and Shelley for taking the time to go through this with me and to guide me and help me. And I thank everybody for your participation. And I hope that some of the stuff I've said makes sense. And thank you to everybody for this opportunity. I'm really extremely grateful. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Piere. I must say, it's very hard for me to listen to your presentation without doing everything myself and shrugging my shoulders and putting my fingers up. And
okay, can I say something? Can I say something about that? It's something we can talk about. It's called mirroring. When you are when as a mediator, you and the people that you are mediating with get to the same level, you will find that they mirror what you are doing. So if you lean forward, they're going to lean forward. If you turn your body to one side, they're going to turn your body to one side. There's this thing about when we're facing people, it's got to do with our umbilical cord. When we are born, we are facing each other. It's an umbilical connection, whether we realize it or not. So anything that we do, that when people connecting with us really, and maybe that's what you are doing right now, is they mirror what we are doing. It's called mirroring. So it's just another extra thing we can talk about extensively sometime. Thanks,
yeah, it's interesting. And just something that I was told or read when I set up my mediation space, I got chairs that can swivel. Because that's when people swivel away from each other, then they're not that keen to chat. And I thought that's a helpful piece of furniture to have. So we're going to open for questions or comments or just a bit of discussion. I'm going to hand over to Shelley, and Shelley, I'll also help you, but if you can just see whose hands go up first.
Sure, no problem. There's no questions in the chat. So does anybody have a personal experience or a funny anecdote or anything to do with a body language experience that they had, that they picked up from a mediation that they did, or anything of the sort? Nobody? Okay. Oh, Hilton. Thank you, Hilton.
Hi, Piere. Hi, Piere. I did leave for a short while, just after past, but I'm not sure if you did perhaps share a few real life examples from your mediations where you
No, actually, Hilton, I didn't. I tried to steer away from that. But here's my favorite thing is I love sitting in an open environment, in an open space, and I watch people. So if I'm sitting at a restaurant, like sometimes when I go into Scottsboro, Rosa goes shopping, and I'll sit at Food Lovers, and I watch the people around me. And so here's an example. I was sitting there one day and there were two ladies having a very serious discussion. But the other lady who was listening, she was like leaning over towards the other person. She cocked her head and she was like really, her facial expression, everything was saying, "Gee, I'm really listening to what you're saying." So as I was leaving, I turned around to the lady. I said, "Gee, you're a really good example of somebody who's a good listener and who's really listening to what somebody else is saying." And the friend turned around, she said, "How do you know?" I said, "No, it's just everything that she was doing with her body told me that she is listening." So it is something that I really enjoy doing. I love watching people. I love watching people walking by, talking to themselves. I'm telling you, it's quite amazing what their body language is telling you, whether they're happy, they're unhappy, or there's so many other things that we do. I went while I was in Zambia, we went to a place called Chimpunzi. Chimpunzi is a chimpanzee orphanage. And while we were there, the most fascinating thing is to see how many of those chimpanzee mannerisms are exactly the same as human being mannerisms. The small little baby chimps, when they get spanked by their parents, they puff the cheeks, just like a normal little child, and they also throw tantrums. When I remember when I was young, you used to walk around the swimming pool, with your arms stuck out, and you like the real breaker type of thing. Young teenage chimpanzees do the same. They pull out all the hair on their arms, all the fur on their arms, okay, so that the female chimps can see the muscles and they walk just like a young teenage dude walking down around a swimming pool trying to impress the woman. So yes, Hilton, there are a lot of things that I can talk about, but it's going to take up a lot more time than what we've got.
Okay, so I think we can end it off. For those of you who do want CPD points,
Shara,
please can.
Shara's got a hand up.
Yes, I
Oh,
do.
sorry, I didn't. Sorry, Shara.
That's okay. That's okay. Thanks. Piere, thank you so much. I really enjoyed what you have shared with us. But one of my challenges, and I am on board completely in respect of the importance of body language, which I find challenging in situations where more and more I am doing online mediations. Online mediations simply because the parties don't want to incur the extra costs of a venue, and also it just meets everybody's schedule. So there's the driving time, settling in time. We get rid of all that, and we're able to slot in like an hour or two of mediation. So it's so hard online for you to read people's body languages. Number one, and what do we do about our own body language, because people are seeing us just like from the neck upwards. So what can we do to show that we are listening and to be conscious of, because the focus now is only on our faces. So any advice or tips for the online mediations?
So can I ask you a question? While you were talking to me, you scratched your neck. Why did you do that?
Yes, because I'm wearing this furry jersey, and it's irritating me.
That's the excuse. When we do that, or we take our collar and we open it, it's called venting. All right.
Oh,
and
okay.
So when that's where that lovely saying comes from. I'm hot under the collar. So we do that. Now you didn't have a collar, so you would touch you did this. So there are a lot of things that we can do when we are doing mediation. So because you can see my body, if I'm talking to somebody on Zoom or something, I will lean, when they are talking, I will lean closer to the camera. So you see me becoming bigger. I would cock my head slightly to the side, which is an indication that I'm listening. There's a lot of little things that we can do, and that show people that we are listening, and we are not being distracting or not trying to be distracting them from their attention. So yeah, there are some, we can deal with that as a separate thing, where we can talk about what we are doing as on a webinar as body language, because there's a lot that and one of the things I think most careful, okay, is that we don't do body language that, because they can only see this part. So a lot of times women do this. And I know I've seen you do that when in a webinar, you take your, and you're telling somebody, look at me, don't you think I'm beautiful, I'm pretty or gorgeous or whatever we want to say. So, and there's a lot of little things that we do in body language that we can talk about just as a webinar. Like I said, I was watching Chandra, and he was sitting like this the whole time. His hands were here, and he was steepling. And it's just a sign that he's confident in in where he is in his space. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff. And if the society wants it, we can have a look then just at this part, this smile. Sometimes we sit there with such a serious look on our face. We don't smile like you are smiling right now. And all of these wonderful things. You know, they say that if you are talking to somebody, be it on Zoom or not, if you smile, you give those people a nice smile, the tendency is exactly what Joe said. They're going to mirror, they're going to smile back. There's a lot of little things that we can do. No, but it's a really good question. And I know maybe I'm extending the time now, but it's cool.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Ishara. I suppose one also has to be aware of sometimes someone is just scratching a scratchy jersey, you know, and not so you need to look at these things in context of what's going on too, and not, you know, every client whose foot faces the door, not say, oh, you're about to leave, don't leave, don't leave the room. So it's something, you know, you need to be aware of, but also
yeah, that's why I said it's not a standalone thing. It's just so again, when I was talking to you, it was what if, I mean, you've recorded this now. It's when what she said at the moment she did that. That's what I was looking at. So what she said at that specific point, and that's also where body language comes. It's exactly what you said. We must be aware of somebody might wear a horrible jersey that they feel itchy about, but there's something that she said at that point, and you go watch the video, you see at that specific point, that's when she goes like this. So it tells me there's something, I'm hot under the collar, you know? So yes, but I agree.
Thank you so much, Piere, because it's so interesting to be specific about certain things that people do or that we do. I think a lot of it, maybe we do understand unconsciously without thinking about it, but certainly things do happen that we need to be made aware of. Things that we might not have noticed otherwise. Are there any other questions? I see somebody asked if there are going to be more of these types of webinars, but we'll definitely keep you informed. One thing I did want to just mention, first of all, just to say thank you to Piere so much. It was fun. It's nice to do a fun thing that we can actually apply. We are, the KZN Society of Mediators is hosting a conference on the 10th of, oh, Natalie, I see your hand, on the 10th of October. And the theme is ethics in mediation. And I think we will spend some time talking about cultural differences, because more and more we need to understand different cultures and how different cultures come to the mediation table. So especially in, I mean, obviously, especially in our society. Yes, Natalie, I mean, I think we've got time for maybe just one or two more comments, and then we'll need to sign off. Nat?
Hi there, Piere. Thank you so much for today's talk. It was very informative. I definitely learned a lot, and I'll try not to scratch anywhere with anything. But I wanted to ask, I read you trained in Zambia, or did some training in Zambia, and I wanted to know how widely used mediation is in Zambia.
Okay, so I started a company in Zambia called Dynamic Dimensions Training Academy, which one of the courses that we did was called Win-Win Negotiation. And then I saw an ad in the Times of Zambia requesting for CVs for people who've got negotiation skills to attend a course in court annexed mediation. So in Zambia, court annexed mediation is, when I was there, it was very big, because I was certified in 2016 and I left in 2020. And it's so they brought it into this to decongest the court system. So, I mean, and there the judge just looks at a case and he says, he signs the mediation form, it goes to the mediation officer. So they did a very similar thing that they tried here in South Africa, where they say the plaintiff and the defendant can choose a mediator. But then they found that they don't know who the mediators are. So they actually just send it to the mediation officer, and the mediation officer in Zambia, where I was in Ndola, is a lady. She takes all of the cases and she disseminates them amongst all the mediators. In Ndola, we were 24 mediators. So you sit and you mediate in the court, in their office, in one of their rooms, and it's quite a big thing. The three major towns is Ndola, Kitwe, and Lusaka. All of them have got at least 20 mediators, and you're doing at least about 6 to 10 mediations a month.
Wow, that's quite impressive.
But the thing there is, it's just beer money, because you get paid 500, the equivalent of 500 rand, 250 rand from the one party, 250 rand from the other party. But I just did it because I really enjoyed it. And for the Zambian people, if they do 10 mediations, that's like 5 grand to them. That's a lot of money to them.
Wow.
So it was, it's a job creation, and it became quite a big job creation thing. A lot of the people did the mediation, and it's like I said, when I was leaving, it's quite a big thing.
Wow. Very impressive.
So when I came back here, the first thing I went on to was the DOJ's website, and I saw that court annex mediation has been suspended. So that rule 41A, which came out before the suspension of court annex mediation, basically in theory does not apply right now. So yeah, I've been talking to there's a lady that's responsible for the thing on the DOJ, for court annex mediation. I've been talking to her maybe every 6 months, asking her, and I sent her a message 3 days ago, stating now that we've got a new minister, and soon we're going to have a new Chief Justice. Can we try to see how we can move this thing forward? So yeah.
Wonderful.
It's a big thing in Zambia.
Wonderful. I wanted to ask, do you have any literature or any write-ups on their model in Zambia?
I've got the training manual somewhere, but I don't. The lady who is part of the system, she's one of the lawyers, but she's also the state counsel, or a state counsel in Zambia, and she's one of the people who have been in the forefront of court annex mediation in Zambia.
Wonderful.
Yeah, sorry.
Thinking of trying to get hold of her. Yeah, sorry.
Can I just can I just recommend, if there's any questions further, that we take it offline, because I'm just looking at the time and I know it's 2 o'clock now, so I think we need to end it. But if anyone has any further questions for Piere, please just send to the admin and I can direct it to him, unless you have his email yourself. And also just a reminder, if you want your CPD points, please just drop me an email and we'll sort that out for you as well. But it was lovely to see you all, see some faces, and keep well, and look forward to seeing you all again shortly. And thank you, Piere, for a very informative webinar.
Thank you so much. And doing everything.
Thank you all.
Thanks to everybody who's attended.
Thank you. Goodbye. Have a good afternoon.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you
Thanks,
too.
Piere.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.